So, so I don't want to be seen as an impulsive, emotional character. I do admit emotions are a part of my whole being, and they're even as much as is possible to approach full efficiency. Nobody does, but they are considered when I reason as well. So what I said in my last vlog, it has a lot to do not just with watching a week of horrible inhuman behaviors that we've seen through the history of our species that has never ended, like I say in my song, but it is also part of catastrophe theory. Let's define that right now, just limited in certain ways. So let's say in the biosphere, there's ecological systems, and there's the social systems of various species, including our own. Ecological, I want to say that it relates to not just how different species interact with each other, but also how they interact with the environments interact with them, or have an impact on them. And we are one of these species, remember, so these are not our social systems and ecological systems to be seen as entirely separate. So I think most people would agree that the resiliency in our system has been broken, not by an asteroid or a supervolcano or extraterrestrials or your god attacking my god or whatever. It's the flaws in the thinking of our species. So we are, we are the breakers of the resiliency of life on this planet and of this system. So in catastrophe theory, we can't be reacting like we are now incrementally, because we know that the flaws is always human errors, although human is a debatable word. Most accidents are human errors, and they're not seen in that way, with car accidents when they're analyzed. Oh, the conditions were horrible, and the person could have sat on their couch and watched TV, or they could have gone driven in these conditions, so it's human error. So catastrophe theory, ecologically, and all of our social systems are crashing, and we are the main perpetrators as a species. So instead of acting as we have been for thousands of years, falling behind to modernity, and modernity, let me define it as, there's a lot of ways to define that. Let's just say everything related to the epoch that we live in. So you can include, again, our social systems, the ecological things, but it's related to the human condition in the environments that they live in. So modernity, when we put a lot of technology out there using a tiny bit of intelligence without wisdom to be used by, and making it as user-friendly as possible to pull a trigger or press a button, in the hands of people with even less intellect and even less wisdom, catastrophe theory will always be a part of our history and the history of this planet because of us. So stop reacting and start focusing on what is causing a break of the resiliency of our systems, including the ones that have existed long before our species, and end these, not in a responsive way, but in a proactive way. I mean, what's coming with our social systems. What's coming ecologically. And, still increase in greenhouse emissions, in population, in unhealthy lifestyles, and in more and more troubled minds. It all links back to our species. So again, reducing our numbers is the most green thing you can do. But in this Ukraine and Russian situation, People, like, I look at votes in the UN. There was, like, I think it was the UN, or was it NATO? It doesn't make a difference. Well, primates, taking more steps backwards to modernity with their wearing nice clothes and nice buildings and pressing buttons, and think they understand speeches and how it relates to the whole system that is crashing. You're so foolish. It might have been passed as vote, but just because, please don't see this as a success. This vote is actually more signs to a systems thinker that you are still taking an incremental, more steps backwards than forwards response and approach to this scenario, which could eventually interrelate and speed up this catastrophe epoch that we live in. So the fact that there were 5 against, but I think it was 34 or something that abstained, it shouldn't even be allowed if you guys want to consider yourselves sentient and sapient and human to abstain. It shouldn't even be allowed. People abstain because of the failed ideologies of your species, like the monetary paradigm, right? Politics, the game of monopoly and war. It's so inhuman. And you think, oh, what a great shift in history. It is, but it should have happened hundreds of years ago if it would have been the success you think it is at the times that you live in. But again, you are so disconnected from how far behind you are to modernity and the current status of your failing systems. It's pathetic. So why I say what I said in my last vlog as an appeal to Russian nationalists, and again, it cannot be linked at all to anybody assisting. It must be them. And there's still going to be horrible long-term consequences to Russia and other countries, no matter how they voted. And voting yay, nay, or abstain, it's all stupid in this scenario. Because there shouldn't even be a vote if you guys, were really sentient and sapient. It'd be like, you'd be way many steps ahead, or at least equal to modernity, that these scenarios wouldn't even happen in the first place that you'd have to vote on. So again, one of your great social enemies in your failing social systems is your bureaucracies. And also, when you allow ignorance and people that are compromised in various ways to partake, even at your most civilized or sophisticated forms of what you consider democracy, when you allow a species to become dumber with a brain that's more and more compromised and easily turn to be more compromised, by having children or buying more things or getting in debt or not having the right critical thinking tools to actually assess how to keep themselves safe and their families safe in realistic ways without just tapping into their fear, tapping into it easily because, you're still a very immature, insecure species that came about on this planet with an origin that included a lot of fear leading to paranoia that is still very much a part of who you are today. Let me tell you that I'm not compromised. Some of the ways I'm not compromised is I've been poor on purpose, and I keep myself a very low consumer and away from these cravings of consumerism for so many years now, and it's gotten so easy. And there's also, I have no loved ones that I'm that worried about. And it's their responsibility to keep themselves safe anyways, and they don't pay attention to me if I want to teach them these skills. So, survival of the fittest, maybe. So, you are so compromised, even if in people in the highest level of power, to do these votes for your nations, and to actually include nations who could just replace Russia the next year is ridiculous as well. It's, you have to start seeing yourselves as who you are. So I say these things because the end game is that somebody's got to say it. And I'm not going for popularity. So again, I'm not compromised in that way. I'm saying what needs to be said, and it's pathetic that you are here now as a species, which is exactly where you were before, with just with nicer clothes and more stuff, and a bigger populace on the planet that is more easily fooled into believing that they have achieved civilization, when again you are about to crash your last proto-civilization. So that's why I say those things. It's not because I'm angry or I want something else on the news. It's because I still believe in you guys too much. That's why I said I know something's going to happen weeks ago with Ukraine, and I didn't think I was going to get big. But again, you're taking more steps backwards. What you consider our successes is still, many of you are going to sit on your asses after this vote. You don't realize the serious stress that your failing systems are under, and to crash it faster without any form of mitigation projects that I've been wanting to mention in my courses, is you are all responsible for more victims, for more misery, for more unhappiness, for more suffering of each and every one of you. So I am now declaring that 99.8 at this time, don't have to wait for the Ukrainian president to eventually fall. I'm telling you right now, based on the last week, I am bringing your doomsday clock that 99.8% of you are now way too compromised with HSD to be able to save yourselves. And these 0.2%, whether they exist or not, might not even be anywhere near any influential roles such as politics or big business or anything like that. They might just be regular folks focusing mostly on, participating in healthy communities and not even that connected to the internet or the news. So, and they don't have superpowers anyways, even if you could find them. So, and there's too many vectors and factors at this point, which is why I'm saying you have to believe who you really are and how you're failing and how far behind you are to save yourselves, if you just want a little bit of hope of reducing misery and hardships for those you claim to be caring about.